Podcast Answer Man, episode number 274.
Entertaining, educational, and encouraging content that makes a difference.
This is GSPN.TV.
Join the community.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Podcast Answer Man. My name is Cliff Ravenscraft, and this, my friends, is the podcast about podcasting, helping you take your show to the next level. It doesn't matter if you're a brand new podcaster, if you have been podcasting for many years, or you haven't quite yet released that first episode. There's something we can all do to take our show to the next level. That's right, my friends, and for me, taking things to the next level is to make sure that I never do what I did in the last episode ever again. Oh my goodness, I'll talk about that in just a moment, but before I do, I want to give everybody just a little overview of some of the things that are going to be talked about in this episode, so you can make a decision right away whether or not you want to stick it out, just in case I get boring talking about something that you don't want to hear about. So here we go. First and foremost, I am going to give a little bit of a overview of how I feel about the answering of an overly technical question that isn't well suited for audio explanation. I will be talking about my upcoming Podcasting A to Z course just briefly. I will talk about the Apple patent story that just came out. Basically, Apple wins a patent for techniques and systems for supporting podcasting and what that might mean. Let's see here. We also have a topic here that where I want to ask you, are you creating life-changing content? Do you realize the power that you have with your voice and your microphone? And the importance of just one listener. So I've definitely got a story I want to share with you today, a call, an email that came in, something to really support this idea of, are you creating life-changing content? So I'm really excited about that. Then standing by is our social media correspondent, Eric J. Fisher, for another social media segment. We are going to be talking about Twitter, its change to the API, and whether or not everybody's going to end up leaving this service one of these days as a result of these changes. We'll see. Anyway, I'll give you a brief update on how things are going on my end now that I've switched every single computer that I own over to Mountain Lion, the newest update for the OS X software for Mac or Apple computers. And then, of course, I'll wrap up the end of the show with my normal thank yous to everyone. So that's going to be what's included in this episode. And the first thing I want to start off with is the feedback that I had received from episode 273. I had asked at the end of the episode, hey, can you tell me what you think about this? And here's what I got, an overview. By the way, just for those that are just tuning in for the first time, in episode 273, right around, I don't know when it was, about halfway through the episode, I ended up taking a question from a member of the audience, from the community, and they had asked, hey, I want to be able to do a podcast where I bring in two different people separately. I want them to hear each other, but I also want to play audio clips. And, is there a possibility of doing this with software? And if not, or what hardware options are available. And I tried to explain this. I know that in my mind, it makes perfect sense. I've been doing this for so long. It's like, reciting the alphabet to me. And I had some feedback from several folks who said, you know what? I listened to it, Cliff, and I was following along right there in my mind. No problems at all. I really loved this geeky content. So I did get about 4 or 5 of those. However, surprisingly, I got some feedback from somebody who did not hear my request at the end of the episode to give me your feedback about how you felt about that. But instead, this person ended up stopping the episode, not listening to the rest, and writing me an email. And I'll just read it to you real quick. It says, "Hey, Cliff, let me start by saying that I am a huge fan of your show, and your show is the #1 podcast on my listening list. And it was one of my high points at Blog World that I was able to meet you and attend your session. That being said, I listen to your show from start to finish every week and often replay segments a second and third time. But your most recent episode, number 273, was the first time ever that I turned off a show before it finished. It went downhill for me when you answered the question from Kelsey. To me, your answer seemed long, overly specific, and hard to follow. And it was the first time you seemed unprepared. First of all, I just want to say it's shocking to say that that's the first time I've seen unprepared. It has been a while since I've come to Podcast Answer Man, quote unquote, unprepared. But yeah. But anyways, he says it's the first time you seemed unprepared, often giving information and links and then correcting yourself. You know, this is something when I was giving links and then looking it up and then fixing, you know, finding out that was the wrong one and giving the right link. You're absolutely right. That right there, I just want to say for everybody listening, that should have been edited out, and I forgot. I did forget to go back and edit that portion of that episode. So even that's a standalone thing for me. When I used to do that quite a bit on Podcast Answer Man, and I had very much gotten out of the habit of doing that, doing my research ahead of time. If I have a link, then by golly, I'm going to look it up. And if I'm looking it up and I get a link wrong while I'm in an episode, rather than doing the whole, you know, oh, let me see here, type it up. Nope, that wasn't it. Nope, that wasn't it. I understand that, you know what, I could get by with that. It, you know, most people probably won't mind. But honestly, it makes me sound unprepared. And it does, you know, just take down the level of the quality of the production I want to offer you guys a bit. I can get by, I can still be authentic, and I can still be transparent and real, but still edit out the junk that you don't have to have, you know. And here's the thing, I value your time. That's something that is a priority for me, is to take your time that you give me each week seriously. So by the way, I thank you for that. Anyway, he says, let's see here, which made it even harder for us to follow along. Please understand this is being offered as constructive criticism and not as an effort to be negative. Thank you for your show. I will continue to be a huge fan. So I just want to say thank you for that feedback. I'm so thankful that you took the time to write this email to me, even though you stopped the episode. This is the kind of feedback that I needed. And to be honest with you, I just did that again. That whole, to be honest with you. Okay, so everything else I've said so far has been a complete lie, but now I'm going to be honest with you. No. Anyway, eventually I'm going to get that out of my vocabulary. But anyway, I want to say that, what was I going to say? Now I seem unprepared, don't I? No, I was going to say something. Oh, anyway. Thank you so much for the email. It means a lot. Oh, I was going to say that I did, you know, halfway through the answer, I realized it was going downhill fast. And when I started to pull up URLs and was getting the wrong URLs, I realized, you know what, I'm just making this worse. And by the end of the episode, I had wanted to stop recording. So I figured that there would be people out there who would want to stop listening. And the reason I knew this, and I knew for a fact there would be people who could follow along, and everything I was saying to them, it just made perfect sense, as if I was telling them, you know, a Dr. Seuss story. It was no big deal. But I work with people all the time who haven't yet had this click for them. And it really is that thing. You know, when we're talking about mix minuses and super heavy technical stuff, this stuff isn't rocket science and stuff like that. It is pretty basic stuff, but it takes a little bit for it to be for you to be exposed to it. I believe it really does take a little bit of a visual aid to kind of, you know, draw and show you diagrams of what audio is going where and how it's going this and how we shut it off and stuff like that. I mean, it's not absolutely necessary, but once you get it, it's like it clicks. It's not something that you start to get and you slowly, progressively understand mix minus more. It's just like there's just this one moment in time where it's like, oh, that's what it's doing. But explaining it in audio is something that was not really the right thing for me to do. And I will certainly not go into detail on things where, honestly, the response to that question should have been, you know what, that's going to require probably a one-on-one session. I love answering as many questions. It's not like I'm trying to, withhold the really valuable stuff so that you'll hire me. I really do have this value or this principle of, give it all away. I honestly don't believe for a minute that if I give you information for free in this podcast, that it will keep people from hiring me to give that same valuable information and help them figure out how to apply that information to their, personal situation. Or if I give away all this information, it's not going to keep people from signing up for a podcasting A to Z course. It's just not that way. But there are times when I think I just need to say, you know what, that one's just not suitable for answering in an audio podcast. So there you go. That's my thoughts related to what I did last week. And for me, taking things to the next level is to make sure that, I bring the appropriate questions and the appropriate explanations and responses to the show. Now, as a result of doing that last week, I totally messed up because here's the deal. I'm sure that this person was not the only person who shut off the episode. I know this because I would have shut off that episode during my explanation of the multiple mix minuses and bringing in audio clips and all the different things and ways you could do it. So, with that being said, that means that many people in the community did not hear my announcement right after that of my next upcoming podcasting A to Z course. That's right, I have already scheduled my next session. It's going to start on Monday, September 24th, and it is a 4-week session, as always, and it will end on Friday, October 19th. Last week, I played a testimonial from my great friend, Lourdes Wellhaven, and she had some wonderful things to say about it. If you want to know what she said, you can go back to episode 273, forward past that very long, detailed, overly complicated response to the Kelsey's question, and then listen to that audio testimonial from Lourdes, and you'll see the value that she got out of it. Had 32 people in my July 2012 session, and a majority of those people are already in their 3rd, 4th, and 5th podcast episode. I am so excited, and I happen to know that the other folks who had not yet completed their first episode are right around the bend. So almost 30 new podcasts launched within the last 60 days. Absolutely awesome. And if you want to be next, I encourage you to sign up. In fact, I want to let you know that 2 people have already signed up for the September session that starts on September 24th. And here's something I'm going to tell you, that number one, I can give you $100 off if you use discount code PAM for Podcast Answer Man. Discount code PAM in the shopping cart will get you $100 off. And if you use discount code PAM, you will also receive immediate access to every digital training tutorial that I have that will be included in the course. You get it all immediately. I would just ask that you withhold any questions related to those materials until September 24th. But you could get a whole 1 month head start by signing up today. A discount of $100 using discount code PAM in the shopping cart. Just go to podcastinga2z.com for full details and more information. All right, the next thing I want to share with you, let's see how I'm doing on time. 14 minutes, I'm doing great. A lot of people are buzzing around the web, especially in my circles, the podcasting community, about Apple, who just got awarded a patent for techniques and systems for supporting podcasts. And so basically, this was, I think, the unofficial Apple weblog, or what is TAW or TUAW, the unofficial Apple website. Anyway, basically, they reported that the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office granted Apple another handful of patents this week, according to Patently Apple. Among this group was U.S. Patent 4,245,924 that describes techniques and systems for supporting podcasting. These techniques include ways of hosting, accessing, subscribing, managing, transferring, and or playing podcasts. So I went in, I looked at this. By the way, I've seen some of the things that people are saying out there. Let me see if I can find some of those details for you. For example, Max Flight, he happens to be a member of the podcast community here. He says, this is why the patent system is broken and serves to work against the original intent of patents, to foster innovation by giving inventors an incentive. Read the patent itself if you can. It includes hardware, devices that can play podcasts, and software, systems to manage the download and transfer of episodes, i.e. iTunes. This strategic move by Apple, he says this is a strategic move by Apple. Companies now build war chests of patents that they can use against others, either to attack a competitor or defend themselves when attacked. You sue me over technology A, and I'll sue you over technology B. Now Apple owns podcatchers and devices to play episodes. Anybody think that's a good thing? Well, I don't know if it necessarily says that they own podcatchers. And here is why. I did go in, by the way, and read the entire patent this morning. And I did take a couple of notes here. First and foremost is where they explain what a podcast is. They had to, kind of, before they talk about what their invention is, they need to explain what this is related to. And this is directly, word from word, from their description of podcasting, okay? First of all, they say podcasts are typically used to share content from websites. That's the first thing they say. My response to that is I completely disagree. I don't think that podcasts are typically used to share content from websites. When I'm creating this podcast, this right here, me speaking into this microphone, this is not emanating from a website. This is podcasts are typically used to share content from people, from producers, from the minds of individuals who have knowledge or wisdom or some kind of entertaining, educational, encouraging, or inspirational content. Podcasts are typically much more than just content from websites delivered to people via RSS, okay? I'm sorry, Apple, I disagree with you there. Okay. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to get that passionate. Yeah, I did. Anyway, so they say podcasts are typically used to share content from websites. I disagree. Now, the rest of this. He says podcasts are associated with really simple syndication, RSS for short, feeds, which use a lightweight XML format. This is absolutely true. Great explanation. A podcast can be organized in episodes much like a radio or television program. Absolutely true. An interested person can subscribe to receive episodes that are subsequently published. Okay? So here's what I want to tell you. When it comes to this patent, this is not saying that Apple invented the ability for somebody to subscribe to an RSS feed to get episodic content. They're already in their definition of what a podcast is and why they're actually applying for improved technologies to support podcasting. They're actually explaining this all existed beforehand. All right. Matter of fact, we're going to get into some really good things here in just a second. He says an interested person can subscribe to receive the podcast episodes that are subsequently published. So that already existed. That's already available before we as Apple are doing anything. He says this is achieved by the interested party using their computer to access a podcast website that hosts the RSS feed. The interested person can subscribe to the RSS feed, such as their computer. Basically, their computer is going to do, they'll have software where the computer will occasionally visit the podcast website to check for any new podcast episodes. This is already existing. Typically, if a new podcast episode is available, it's downloaded to the computer, already existing. Therefore, or thereafter, the interested user can play the podcast episode at their computer in the same manner as other audio files. And by the way, judging by the artwork of this and also the mention of a certain service or podcatcher, if you will, that was used a long time ago and isn't very popular today, it makes me think that this patent was originally filed back in 2006. I'm almost positive of this, and it's just taken 6 years for them to get this thing approved. So anyway, he says thereafter they can get these things. He says thereafter the interested party can play the podcast at their computer in the same manner as any other audio files. He says a utility program, or the patent application says a utility program can be used to download the audio files to a portable media player. All right. And then then the patent says one example of such a conventional utility program or pre-existing software that existed before iTunes gave us this ability. I keep saying he says. Anyway, one example of such a conventional utility program is iPodder, which is a small program that runs on one's computer to download audio files to one's portable media player. Okay, now here, so all of this is existing, and it's my understanding. Of course, I am not an attorney. I don't understand patents at all, but from what I am reading, all of these things say, it's Apple's not claiming that they invented any of the above. None of that. What they're saying is we want to create a program where we're going to do it a certain way. All right. He says that it continues. It says podcasts, unfortunately, podcasts are conventionally not easily managed on a host computer. Podcasts often dynamically change as new episodes are released. Management of such dynamic media, media assets is complicated, and I completely disagree with that. Anyway, it says, additionally, to the extent that the host computer desires to support a portable media player, the host computer needs to manage the transfer of the podcast data to the portable media player. Thus, there is a need for techniques to manage and use podcasts on computers. Now, the thing is that there were already techniques to manage subscriptions, and there were already techniques to transfer them to portable media devices. They basically applied for a patent for how iTunes has been doing it for years. I went in and I read the summary of the invention and all of that stuff, and it just seems that they're saying, hey, we don't want somebody to create a clone of iTunes. We don't want somebody to create basically they don't want somebody who has been, watching how iTunes has been doing podcasting for the last, 6 years, and then all of a sudden creating something that looks exactly the same, does all of the same things. The only thing is, though, is that, how else? They only did it the logical way, and now all of a sudden they do happen to own this patent. And if you read through, it seems like, wait a second, that's pretty much what a lot of other programs have been doing all of these years. So now that Apple owns the patent, what does this mean? I don't know what this is going to mean to anybody, anywhere. The only thing that concerns me is I really don't like the idea of Apple being the only company out there that has a stake in having a management system for subscribing to podcasts. What about Stitcher Radio? Does this affect Stitcher Radio? Does this obviously, unfortunately, Zune software has not had the greatest system for submitting your podcast and all of that stuff. But does this affect Microsoft's ability to continue to support and the management and subscriptions and delivery of files to mobile devices for our podcasts? What about BlackBerry? Although BlackBerry may not be around for forever, but does this keep other companies, from doing this? Could this have anything to do with the fact that Google stopped supporting the Google Listen application? maybe catching wind that Apple was about ready to win this patent. Is that something that had anything to do with them dropping the support for the Google Listen app, which Google Listen was a podcatching or podcast subscription management software for Android devices? I don't know. All I can say is that, I don't think that it's going to impact us anytime soon, but I just wonder how a patent like this awarded to Apple can stifle innovation of others creating even better techniques, or basically what's required to manage the subscription of podcasts but from another company, and to innovate it and take it to a whole new level. Does Apple's patent mean that they own those improved technologies? So I don't know. We'll have to see how things go. If I learn more, if I hear more, I'll certainly bring it to you guys, but just wanted to share that with you. And we're going to switch things over here to some feedback from a listener. And this is going to be John Buchanan, I believe is his last name is Buchanan. We'll find out at the end of his voicemail here if I've pronounced that correctly. But anyway, I want to let you know that the topic here is, are you creating life-changing content? I often talk about the reason why we podcast. Why are you hitting the record button? For what purpose are you creating content? And I'm sure that's going to be different for many people, but what I have found to be the content that I most, am most drawn to, the content that I've seen the most successful in building community and loyal fan bases, are people who are in this not just for the money, but actually are in this to improve people's lives, to share information, to benefit others. And not to say that they don't profit from that. I mean, obviously, I profit very much from creating content and even giving content away. It is a great way to market my products and services and other offerings that I have available. But it's not it's not solely for the purpose of profit that I do what I do. And you can go back to podcastanswerman.com/why, WHY, to hear an episode of this podcast that I did where I talked about the reason why I podcast and how sometimes I have to remind myself of the reason why, because I lose my way sometimes. I shift my priorities in the wrong direction. And I got an email this week, and I oftentimes get emails from people that are just extremely thankful for the content that I create. However, it always stands out to me when I get an email that starts off with the phrase, when you see something that is, dear Cliff, when you see something that is life-changing, that's what happened to me today. It was when I found your website. So that right there immediately says, whoa, hold on. I need to take notice here. Now, here's the situation. I got this email from John, and I was just blown away. It's like, wow, this is an affirmation of why I'm podcasting. This is why I'm creating this content. This is why I think it's important for everybody to know what is possible out there with this, new media. Some people think, well, gosh, doesn't everybody know how to podcast now? No, not everybody does. People out there still today need somebody like myself, and perhaps some of you out there who are out there sharing the message of podcasting and how to do it and all of this stuff. So here's the other thing before I get into this email, and I want to go through the story and pull out some points that really speak to my heart as it relates to why I create this content. But the other thing is I want you to not only think, am I creating life-changing content? The other thing is do you understand the importance of just one listener? The just one download? Because here's the thing. The biggest thing that gets under my skin, it just makes my skin crawl, is when I hear a producer say, I only have X number of people who are listening to my show. I only have 300 people. And you guys have heard me complain about this over and over and over again. But come on, I mean, if your content is life-changing and you have 10 people, I have to think there's some value in that. And it just really irks me when I get somebody who is out there, they're creating content, they've created 30 episodes, they've got 300 subscribers, and they just say, just don't know if it's worth it. Just not sure. Only 300 people. That really gets under my skin. And I understand that, wanting to, grow your audience, extend your reach, but let's think about the value of just one person. So John and I had some great email exchanges back and forth. Oh, by the way, sometimes when people come to me and say, hey, Cliff, I've been podcasting for, let's just say I've been podcasting for 6 months. I've created 2 episodes a week, every week. And even today, I only have, 200 subscribers to my podcast. And some people think I'm joking when I say this, but they say, I want to hire you to teach me how to grow my audience. And my immediate response via email is this. So you say you have about 200 people per episode that are downloading your show. Here's what I want you to do. Do me a favor. Go out, make a list of the first name, last name, and a minimum of 2 personal details about that person. First name, last name, email address, and 3. So first name, last name, email address, and 2 personal details. And I'm talking about, what does that person do for a living? Where does that person live? How many kids do they have? What's their background? Tell me. I want to know 2 personal details. All right. And I say, you just get that for 50 people. If you get that for 50 people, then contact me again and we'll schedule an appointment. All right. So you have 200. I just need that for 50 people. First name, last name, email, and 2 personal details. All right. Find that, put that list together, call me, or email me. We'll schedule a time for a call, and I will help you take this to a level you never dreamed possible. And of course, do you know how many of those people ever reach back to me? None. And the reason why is number one, it's because they did it and they didn't need to hire me, or number 2, they just thought I was crazy. And I'm fine either way. But here's the thing. I'm going to go ahead and play John's voicemail, or actually, because I emailed back and forth with John. I asked him if he minded if I shared this, and he was so excited. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, if you're that excited about me sharing it, would you be willing to record? I don't care if it's word for word. I would love to have exactly this content in my show, and I really don't like to read emails. So here's John's recording of the email he sent to me.
Hi, Cliff. When you see something life-changing? Well, that happened to me today. I found your website. This is the backstory of my life right now. I hope I don't bore you too much. I'm a 50-year-old unemployed divorced father of 4 children. In 1987, at the age of 25, I quit my job in the industrial painting business and went to college to become a radio talk show host. In 2 years, I was the general manager of a college radio station, and I had the most popular nighttime radio program at the station. In 1988, I took a summer job driving a truck for an elevator company. In September, I continued to drive 3 days a week and attend classes. February of 1989, I was offered an apprenticeship in the elevator repair business that would turn into a career where I could make over $100,000 a year. One problem. My 2 biggest fears in life? Electricity and heights. Not a great combination for someone who has to work with electricity in high places. Well, I took the job. The money was good, and I just had to overcome my fears. The next 19 years, I worked my way up to be a respected elevator mechanic and troubleshooter and run a maintenance route in Philadelphia. A work injury to my knee in March of 2006 made it impossible to continue repairing elevators. I was put on light duty for 8 weeks, and while I was on light duty, the branch manager saw supervisor potential in me. I knew my knee couldn't take the grind of working in the field, so I accepted the supervisor position. The problem was I hated my job. I was depressed, so I ate. I gained weight. I stopped walking, which made things worse. It was a snowball effect. I gained 200 pounds from July of 2007 to January of 2010. I was 10 pounds away of being 500 pounds. I thought my life couldn't get worse. Marriage, horrible. Career, horrible. Health, horrible. But I was wrong. In May of 2011, my wife and I decided to separate. Then in June of 2011, my company was purchased by another elevator company, and my job was eliminated. It took me 7 months to find another job in the elevator business, doing the exact same job I hated. Hey, I didn't complain. It was a job. But little did I know, the company that hired me was in major trouble. I was working 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, trying to catch up. I didn't complain. It was a job. My boss, who used to have my position, was promoted to a new position. Then my boss realized he hated his job and he wanted his old job back. Uh-oh. Yep. In just 5 months, I was let go again. Maybe that was a sign. I always wanted to be a talk show host. I heard of podcasting when I bought my Sirius radio. Adam Curry had a podcast show once a week. There was a bunch of podcasts they would play almost like records. One was a brother and sister talking about their school. Another one was about hurricanes. The topics were all over the place. And I didn't understand the concept of podcasting. That was until I bought my iPhone. I started downloading podcasts that interested me. I got the itch to broadcast again, but I didn't know how until today. I will start a podcast. Right now I'm on a very tight budget, but I will end up having a studio like yours. I will scrape the money together to take your podcasting A to Z course. We will be getting to know each other in the near future. I just wanted to introduce myself. Thanks for listening, Cliff. John Buchanan.
John, thank you so much. Number one, for the email, and number two, for taking the time to download the iTalk application, which, by the way, John learned about from learnhowtopodcast.com. And he recorded that for me so that I could provide that. And he asked me if I had any feedback related to the story. And I said, I'll tell you what, listen to episode 274 and you'll hear my feedback. And John, number one, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate the fact that you listened or that you found my site. I'm so excited that you did. And I appreciate the fact that you are one really awesome listener to Podcast Answerman. You're one of those people that I definitely want to reach out there in this world with this message of sharing your voice with the world. So if you asked for my feedback, and I want to provide it. So first of all, an amazing opening that just really made my day. When somebody tells me that the content that I'm creating is life-changing, that it's changing your life just by the fact that you found my website. And by the way, he found my website yesterday, Wednesday, August 22nd, or it might have been Tuesday, August 21st. But anyway, he just found my website this week. I mean, and it's having a profound impact on his life. Do you know what that means for me? It's like that right there. It's just like, wow. That means more to me than all of the digital product sales that I made this week. Now, I'm not complaining about the digital training product sales. In fact, I noticed that John's already purchased 2 of them. So thank you for that too, John. But anyway, the thing is that the email lets me know what I'm doing is having a positive impact on somebody else's life. This is amazing. Not to mention the fact that, I talk about, people say, gosh, Cliff, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. No, well, nobody's ever actually said these words, but I know that they're thinking them. Gosh, Cliff, how in the heck am I supposed to ever get somebody's first name, last name, email address, and 2 personal details of 50 of my listeners? Well, my friends, if you're creating the kind of content that I'm talking about that changes people's lives, that gives them hope and instills in them some kind of inspiration, these people you won't need to go and fish for this information. You'll get it. You'll get an email that starts with, "This is the backstory of my life right now. I hope I don't bore you with all of the details. I'm a 50-year-old, unemployed, divorced, father of 4 children from the ages of 14 to 10. You'll get details, okay? The question is do you care? Do you care about those details? I personally, I do care about those details. Do I have the opportunity to actively engage with every single person who writes me their life story? Not at this level, no. But one of the things that I learned from my great friend Michael Hyatt, and I'm sure he may have heard it from somewhere else, but I know that I attribute it to Michael Hyatt, actually Michael Hyatt may have got it from Andy Stanley, and then I heard it from Andy Stanley because I went and found that episode. But do for one what you wish you could do for many. Do for one what you wish you could do for everyone. And I try to make that, and that's why I'm doing it here. Anyway, so here's a couple things about the details. What are in these details that John said? Was that just a boring, long, non-podcast related voice message to you guys? Or did you hear the valuable information? Number one, in 1987, at the age of 25, he quit his job in the industrial painting business. And he actually even said it was a family business. All right. So in 1987, at the age of 25, he quit the family business. Now, for me personally, I know what that feels like. I know the difficult decision it takes to actually leave a family business. He says at the age of 25, when he left the family business, he went to college for one purpose: to become a radio talk show host. So why did he leave his family business? Because he had a great desire, a desire enough to pay and to go to college at age 25 to become a radio talk show host. So there's his passion. That's that, this is what I want to do with my life kind of thing. Was he good at it? Well, he says that he says that within 2 years, he was the general manager of the college radio station, and he had one of the two most popular nighttime radio programs at the station. So he's already moving up. Now he's going to college, so he's doing a job, right? And by the way, I have not talked to John at all. All I have is his email and that recording. And you see how I'm putting the picture together here? So this is a guy who's left his family business at the age of 25, says, you know what? And by the way, I'm sure that what? You're going to leave this family business to go do what? I'm sure that he probably got a little bit of that, or a lot of bit of that, to go to college so he can become a radio talk show guy. Come on, seriously? So he's in college. He's trying to make money. So he's out there. He took a summer job in 1988, driving a truck for an elevator company. In September, they asked him to stay on a little bit more. And then all of a sudden they said, you know what? I tell you what, we think that you can go far in this business. We're going to offer you can make over $100,000 a year. And, here he is probably in college, trying, it's like there's no promise of a radio job, no promise of this. And wow, this seems to be quite the security that I think I would need to actually create a good life, And so basically I took the job because the money was good, is what he says, the promise of a great check, And so what does he do? He works there in this elevator company for 19 years, climbing the ladder, becoming somebody who is extremely popular in this industry, in his own industry. The only thing is, it wasn't the job that he loved. In fact, he only did it for the money. He had to overcome a fear of heights and a fear of playing around with electricity, just so that he could do the job. But the chasing after the money was enough for him. So for 19 years, he did this, and he was doing pretty good. But then he had a knee injury. And his knee injury, got him to the place where he couldn't do that specific job anymore. So he took on a supervisory role, and he hated that job. But it was the only thing he could do in that same industry that he's known for 19 years of his life. And he became a supervisor. The only thing is he hated the job so much that he became depressed, and he ate, gaining lots of weight, gaining almost 200 pounds within a 3-year period of time, or 2.5-year period of time. Just shy of 500 pounds. This, I'm thinking of somebody like, you might see on The Biggest Loser. He says, my life was a wreck. My marriage is horrible. My job is horrible. My health is horrible. And let me tell you, this is not uncommon. I see this in people. I was almost this guy. I was almost you, John. I was in a family business. I hated my job. I despised it. I was gaining weight. And all of this stuff, I so know where you're coming from. And he says, I thought things were as bad as they could get, but then, with all of this stuff going on in his life, obviously marriage wasn't in the greatest shape. They ended up separating in May of 2011. In June, the company was bought, and then they let him go. After 19 years, they let him go. Then he searches for 7 months, looking for another place where he could do the job that he hates. And this is not uncommon either. I see this a lot. And so he finds a job after 7 months and works there for 5 more months, and one thing leads to another, and the next thing he knows, after all the hard work, and by the way, I don't know if you caught it, but working 14 hours a day, 6 days a week to try and catch up. And then all of a sudden, just because somebody who had his position before him wanted it back, he's let go again. So I love how he says, maybe this is a sign. And when you think about, I think the sign wasn't necessarily what happened in 2011, 2012. I don't think that's the sign. I think the sign was the fact that at age 25, John, you left your family business and the security of what that offered to you to go to college, to become a radio guy, to get behind a microphone and share your voice with the world. I think that was the sign, but I understand how the other signs, which are dollar signs, can cloud our view of what we should be doing in our life. Anyway, he says that basically the passion that he had was still there. In 1987, he did what I was just talking about, but he says here. Anyway, he talked about the passion that's still there. He says, I always wanted to be a talk show host. I heard about podcasting when he bought his Sirius Radio. He said, Adam Curry, if you guys don't know, Adam Curry was one of the co-creators of the technology of podcasting, along with Dave Weiner and some folks. They got together and thought of all this stuff about how we could attach enclosures, media enclosures, and deliver audio files via RSS. It was not Apple. But anyway, Adam Curry at the time said, you know what, we're going to take this money that we have and we're going to get a channel on XM satellite radio, or Sirius Radio. It was just Sirius Radio, I guess. Anyway, we're going to get a channel and we're just going to take podcasts and broadcast them one right after another. And so he says, he found this brother and sister talking about school one day, and then there were other podcasts, and he understood, but he didn't understand what podcasting was, or, anything about the whole portable on demand. You can play it, what you want, when you want, how much content was out there. This is just a playlist of somebody else that's just playing stuff, what they liked, what Adam Curry liked, from his network. So anyway, he said he began to understand podcasting, however, when he got his iPhone. Then he started to download the podcasts that interest him. Now, this is a story that I hear over and over again. It's like, wow, when I finally had today it's not even just a smartphone or an iPhone. It could be any smartphone where somebody teaches them podcasting. But man, once they start to understand what a podcast is and what it can offer, they start downloading those podcasts that interest them. And then all of a sudden, he said, I got the itch to broadcast again. That dormant desire that caused me to leave my job when I was 25 years old, it was still there. I wanted to broadcast again, but I didn't know how. He says that I didn't know how until today. And that was when he found learnhowtopodcast.com. And basically, he's sharing with me that I have this awesome privilege and this honor of bringing hope to a dream that he had back in, 1987. And so he says, I will start a podcast. Right now, it will have to be on a very tight budget at first, but I think that I'll end up having a studio just like yours. I will scrape some money together and take your A to Z course. I will set up a studio, and we will be getting to know each other in the future. And he says, he ends his email, I just wanted to introduce myself. Well, John, I am so thankful for you introducing yourself. And thank you so much for being an example for me to share with my community here of just what's possible when one person out there is touched by the content that we create. And this, my friends, is why I believe the world needs people who have a message to share their voice with the world. I don't know if yours will be sharing how to podcast with the world, but is there something that you know how to do that is either entertaining, that you can have educational content? Can you do something that's encouraging? Can you do something that will inspire others to take action, positive changes in their lives? If so, why aren't you yet podcasting? All right? Why not? go over to learnhowtopodcast.com. Start out there. That's the foundation. It's the first place. And if you decide down the road you want to take it to a whole new level, then consider going to podcastingatoz.com. But, here's the thing. I want to encourage people out there, if you're listening to me, don't ever say only so many subscribers. Don't ever say that, because you don't know how many Johns are out there listening to you. And those people are important. John, thank you for the content. Thank you for the voicemail. Thank you for the email. And I do look forward to following your story. I shared the email with my Podcast Mastermind organization. We have 40 members of the Podcast Mastermind. And I shared it with them, and they said, Cliff, you've got to follow his story. You've got to keep us informed. We want to see this from beginning to end. So here we go. The beginning of the story is episode 274, and I can tell you this, that he actually spent the day on my site going through learnhowtopodcast.com. He understands how to use the iTalk application, turn it into an MP3, and send it to me for a voicemail feedback and playing so that I could play the audio clip that I just played for you. He already has purchased WordPress for Podcasters over at podcastanswerman.com/products. He's already purchased the Thesis theme tutorial. So I know that he's already creating the content, and I hope that, John, you'll touch base with me in about 2 or 3 weeks to let me know where people can find your podcast. I'm looking forward to letting people know. And the reason why I say 2 or 3 weeks is because I'm taking the week off next week. I'll talk about that in just a moment. But I'll tell you what, my friends, it is time for our social media segment this week. We have Eric Fisher on the line, standing by. Eric, what do you have for us this week?
Well, we are going to talk about how Twitter continues to make changes, even leading to online protests.
Online protest. I have been seeing this left and right, my friends. Tell us a little bit about it.
Occupy Twitter.
Occupy Twitter.
Somebody wrote that as a hashtag. Anyways, yes, the rules for Twitter's third-party API has been changing. They've been changing this. Well, we've even talked about this on segments on this show in most recent memory. The one that was the most was LinkedIn, as well as Instagram. Well, we've gotten a full-blown account of that. Some different third-party content creators or application creators, I should say, for Twitter have started to speak out on this.
Yeah, I know that Tumblr just announced today on their blog, today on their blog, that they've been cut off from allowing Tumblr clients to find their friends on Twitter because of the API. In fact, Tumblr says, to our dismay, Twitter has restricted our users' ability to find Twitter friends on Tumblr. Given our history of embracing their platform, this is especially upsetting. Our syndication feature is responsible for hundreds of millions of tweets, and we eagerly enabled Twitter cards across 70 million blogs and 30 billion posts as one of Twitter's first partners. While we're delighted by the response to our integrations with Facebook and Gmail, we are truly disappointed by Twitter's decision. That is from Tumblr.
Yes, and there's actually a quote here from the Twitter spokesperson about the Instagram, where you would try the find Twitter friends feature was disabled.
Yeah.
And at the time, the Twitter spokeswoman, I should be fair, says, we understand that there's great value associated with Twitter's follow graph data, and we can confirm that it is no longer available within Instagram. And that's all they said.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, anyway, this goes beyond just cutting off the friends, the find your friends feature.
Right.
But it also goes to some other changes to their API.
Yeah, it literally now extends to actual third-party Twitter clients themselves. Instagram wasn't necessarily a Twitter client, Tumblr either. Neither was LinkedIn. However, for example, our favorite Twitter client, Tapbot, or not Tapbot. Tapbot is the one that owns it. It's Tweetbot. Is now going to be affected by this.
Yeah, and all third-party Twitter
all
applications.
third-party Twitter applications.
So basically, they said that Twitter unveiled some. By the way, I'm reading this from Mashable. Twitter unveiled some of the upcoming changes to the version 1.1 of its API that could have a drastic impact on the service's third-party ecosystem. As promised, Twitter is squeezing the knot around the neck of third-party Twitter apps that mimic Twitter.com with a more stringent set of API rules. The changes in Twitter are designed to foster a consistent Twitter experience from platform to platform, which basically we can read that as, if we're going to put ads in our Twitter ecosystem, our ads must also show up in your device.
Yeah.
And also, it says here that they used to have this thing called rules, and now, or no, guidelines, but now the guidelines are called rules. So basically, those clients that do not adhere to the rules, like proper scaling for device, could have their application key revoked. Similarly, all of these apps have to be certified by Twitter before pre-installation, say prior to consumer delivery. Failure to do so could result in an application key revocation. Twitter may also be here's the big one. Twitter may also be seeking to limit the number of users these third-party tools can have. Its last Rules of the Road update says that developers who need a large number of user tokens will have to work directly with Twitter to acquire them. The company does acknowledge that some third-party developer apps are already past the new limits and will work with them, but only to a point. When they grow to 200% of their current size, they'll need to get an okay from Twitter to go further.
Yeah.
I don't know, my friend.
Sounds like somebody's getting a little too big for their britches, if you ask me.
Well, it seems to me that they're burning the bridges from the people who made Twitter what it is,
and are continually and currently doing so. Because as this news was coming out, I went over to the iOS. I went to iTunes. I went to type in Twitter, and it brought up all the Twitter apps for iOS. And there's the Twitter for iPhone and Twitter for iPad. There's Hootsuite. There's like Echo Phone. There's our favorite Tweetbot. And all the third-party apps are rated higher than Twitter's own app.
Yeah.
Which is sad because they just don't. I personally, personal opinion, I feel Twitter does not understand that the reason these third-party apps are potentially just making them jealous is that they're outdoing them is because they're not spending time making their own apps or own experience what it should be.
Right. And the thing is they've given people the tools saying, hey, we encourage you to create these tools.
Right.
Go and do this. And they've done it. And I think it's great. You and I have argued for a long time, and I know some other people, it's like, you know what, why don't you charge people who, if your big deal is you want to make money and you need to have the advertisements show up everywhere exactly the way the advertisement should be, why not forgo the ad model and offer a paid service? I would pay $50 a year. I'd pay $100 a year for the use of Twitter if you gave me some additional features that were above and beyond just what's available for free, and keep what's available, what makes Twitter work still, make that available to people for free and give extra features.
Yeah, I totally agree. If there was a monetary value to apply to Twitter that, you had to pay this to be able to use it, and you have either this certain amount of tweets for the entire, billing cycle or for the year or whatever you want to call it, cool. Or like how Buffer did it when they first came out. You had a certain amount of accounts, certain amount of tweets, certain amount of this and that, and bells and whistles. And the more you paid, the more bells and whistles you got. I am totally cool with that. Twitter is worthwhile to me, but with all this news, like, I'm starting to have my doubts about them potentially being one of the next ones to move the way of MySpace. Honestly.
I don't like to be the sky is falling guy.
I don't either.
And I typically don't do that. And to be honest with you, I mean, honestly, how you and I know about this, we're super ultra geeks. We're reading Mashable and we're we're connected to other geeks, but really, are all the Justin Bieber fans, are they going to even notice that is the problem? That this is going on?
Oh no,
honestly, I mean, probably
for the average user. To be honest, I think the average user really is using either the Twitter.com site or a native, literal Twitter for whatever device you have app.
Right. And what makes Twitter so appealing for me is the number, and the reason why I haven't really taken Google Plus seriously, and I think that this is applicable both ways, is the fact that, number one, not everybody that I know is on Google Plus, and number two, Google Plus doesn't have any cool third-party applications, and they don't allow me to, post from another service. Like, for example, if I took an Instagram picture, I can't post that to Google Plus.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think that Twitter is, they're cranking things down. They want people to use their own services, stuff like that. But I don't know. I'm not crazy about this, and I think long term, unless some things change, I think that it could be the beginning of the end for the more technically savvy people. I think Twitter could. I think this will stifle innovation for them. I think all innovation that's happened for Twitter, every bit of it has happened as a result of third party or the user base.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, we've seen this in the past with the fact that there was no such thing as a hashtag, no such thing as retweets. Those were all from the users.
Yeah.
And Twitter adopted them.
Yeah.
So
and they adopted them officially after third party developers had found ways to incorporate them and program for them. So the whole hashtag thing, that was available in third-party applications well before it was available inside of Twitter.
Yeah.
Same thing with the retweets. The other thing is, they had to buy Summarize. Remember Summarize, which today is search.twitter.com?
I had forgotten about that. Yeah, you're right.
So, I mean, all of that was a third-party application that probably would not be offered an API token today.
Well, and the fact that there was no official Twitter iOS app, it was Tweety, and they bought it and then rebranded it, and now that's what Twitter for iPhone is.
Yeah.
Remember?
I do.
That was our go-to app back in the day.
So, here's the thing. I have been using Facebook more and more these days. I told you that I unlinked my 2 accounts.
Yes.
And I find myself, as a result of that, getting a ton more engagement, because now I'm, I usually post something to Twitter. I'll tweak it differently for Facebook, and I'll tweak it, a little bit differently for LinkedIn, and I post it in those 3 places.
Hey, one quick thought. I think another potential reason why you're getting more Facebook, aside from you're doing it the right way, is you're putting less just plain old tweet text there, and then that's the opportunity for people to ignore it, which then tells the EdgeRank feed, well, your friends have ignored that, so they don't need to see as much of your stuff.
Right. Exactly.
You're not training the EdgeRank to make people ignore your stuff.
The only thing is, though, is I have found myself not posting as much as a result of all of this.
But you're getting more engagement.
But I'm getting more engagement on the things that I do post. So I guess it's...
So where's the downside? You're doing less and getting more, Cliff.
I understand that, but the downside is there are sometimes it's like, I would love to send out a tweet right now.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to send out a tweet, because then there's going to be some people on Facebook that won't get it, and I don't really want to go and find an image, and I don't want to put out a tweet I don't want to put a status update without an image. I just not going to put out anything right now. And you know what? There's probably a ton of people out there really needed to know what I had for dinner last night.
I don't know. Well, that's true. I really needed to know.
Yeah, I'm just kidding about that, obviously. But I have found myself not tweeting or status updating as much, and curating the things that I share a whole lot more, which I think probably is a much more valuable thing overall.
I truly think it is. I think that's a step that I myself am trying to move towards, especially with having more margin in my life and not feeling like I'm a slave to the tools.
Right.
So,
well, another part of the story is the fact that app.net, if you go to join join.app.net. They actually created their own self-funded kind of Kickstarter kind of thing. And they were fully funded. I don't know what they ended up reaching, but I know they were over $600,000. And you can actually reserve an account today. If you go to join.app.net, for $50, you can be a member. It's 1 full year of service on app.net. And for $100, you could have a developer key, so you can be working on creating stuff like that. But it is a paid service. And, Eric, there's a part of me that wants to go jump on board app.net just because I know that it's going to be the geekiest of the geeky of my friends.
Yeah. Well, part of it really appeals to me. When you listen, there's a video there. It's like 3.5 minutes, so you probably shouldn't play the audio. But it really does a great job of explaining what this is that essentially when you're a social network that exists for free, then you exist you still have to make money. So your first concern is actually to make money, not to serve your customers. In other words, your customers are the ad makers, the marketers, etc., not the consumer. But when you make the consumer pay, and in this case, $50 for a year, you make them pay to use the service, then the service becomes much more in the hands of, well, they're paying us. We need to do what they say. We need to make this a real awesome user experience. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, here's the thing. I've said it here today. I've said it 100 times before. If Twitter would charge me, for a service, I would pay for it. And here's this opportunity for $50. Now, the thing is what app.net does not have is app.net does not have all of my users. It doesn't
all my
have
people. Yeah,
it doesn't have all my friends, but it does have what Twitter had at the very beginning, which is the number of people that I had, when I started out with Twitter, but the thing is of course I would, I wonder if I would want Stephanie to get on there as well. And so that's, another $50 there and stuff like that. I don't know. Join.app.net. I would love to know in our comment section. Just go to podcastanswerman.com/274 and tell us, did you get a join? Did you go to join.app.net and sign up for an account? I know that Ryan Azawa's on there. I know that Leo Laporte's on there. I know a bunch of other people that I know are on there. So I don't know. I haven't.
All the people that jumped on Google Plus first?
Yeah, I don't know. I have not done it yet. And not sure that I will, but I'm interested to find out what other people think.
I want to know more first. I want to know that if I put stuff on there and I make it public, that you don't have to be a user and paid $50 to be able to see my stuff if I want it to be public.
Well, here's the thing. Go to join.app.net, and it's got the app.net community. Leo Laporte's the first picture there, so click on Leo Laporte. So there's
good point.
So there's alpha.app.net/Leo Laporte. And it's got his image there, and it
looks like you can.
Yeah, I see everything.
It's kind of Twittery.
It looks very much like Twitter. The only thing is, it's like, dude, where's the threaded comments? If you're gonna make something, come on, let's fix the one thing Twitter hasn't got right yet. Mm-hmm. Cool, and they have a directory of third-party apps already.
Well, and here's the thing: Buffer just announced that they already have integration with app.net.
Sweet.
So
I don't know. Maybe.
I'm holding out because I don't know why. Honestly,
I don't know. Here's the thing. It could be the one thing that. The question is, can they at some point offer a free version? That would be the one thing that, obviously I would sign up today, but I don't know if I would actually pay $50 for Stephanie. Well, if Stephanie wanted it, I would, but obviously there's no reason for Stephanie to have it at this point. Not enough of her. Anybody that follows her would be on it. Most of them wouldn't. But anyway, I'm not going to pay $50 for each of my 3 kids to be on it. So the question is there a way for people to have a free account in the future once they get into like a beta or an open system? Will they have enough paid users, but then they have enough of the free stuff to give people the ability to do
Get their feet wet.
Yeah, to get their feet wet, to be
First
at least,
one's free.
Yeah, well, not the first one's free, but maybe hey, you can have one status update per day. Is your on your free account, or you can have for free you can have up to 100 followers, or you can for free you can follow up to 50 people. You see how you can limit it in that way, and it still isn't going to take the casual user that you would want to interact with you and stuff like that. And there's a lot of people who would be served well by having a limit of followers of whatever I just said, and a limit of 50 people that you can follow.
Yeah.
Does that all makes sense?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So anyway, Tweetbot, by the way, says, hey, no worries here, guys. We're totally okay. Keep calm and tweet on, they say.
Yeah.
And I think that they pretty much have to say that is because, well, hello, that's their business. It's do you know how much money they have tied up into Tweetbot, and they want people to stay on there. They said there's been a lot of fear. This is from Tapbots. There's been a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt generated by Twitter's latest announcement. I want to let everyone know, though, that the world is not ending. Tweetbot for Mac is coming out soon. Tweetbot for iOS isn't going anywhere. And that's great to hear. Because obviously that is my Twitter account. That's my Twitter third-party client.
Yeah, mine as well.
So I'm glad to hear that they're not going anywhere. I know that they're way over the 100,000 thing, and
right,
and
which is great. Whatever their really, really, really large number right now is, they have to grow to 200% of that before Twitter has to step in and start doing whatever.
Right. But here the thing is, though, is I don't suspect we'll see a lot of innovation in third-party apps, which has been the greatest source of innovation for Twitter since its beginning. So they'll have to innovate from within. And maybe they can do that. So I don't know. I'm not here asking everybody to do a mass exodus of Twitter. I don't plan on doing an exodus of Twitter at all. I am, however, very interested in a more intimate community with join.app.net, and I might sign up. So, Eric, before we get off the line here, I want to ask you to share with the world what you've been working on.
Well, what I've been working on is launching a new podcast.
Eric Fisher, you're going to have a podcast of your own?
Of my very own, actually, for the very first time.
Sweet. So tell us a little bit about it.
All right. Well, it's called Beyond the To-Do List, Personal Productivity Perspectives. And essentially, it's me having conversations with successful friends and personal heroes about how they manage their time, prioritize their tasks, and take steps to avoid burnout.
Sweet. Well,
first episode is interview with you.
I appreciate that. I had a fun time in that first episode sharing a little bit about how I organize and prioritize my life. And I noticed that Andy Traub is episode number 2, which is very cool. And I'm certain that your list will continue to grow. And where can people find that again?
BeyondTheToDoList.com.
All right. So if you guys are out there looking for some content that will inspire you on how to better prioritize and get your life to where it's maybe got a little bit more margin, or you become a little bit more productive, or you just want to have some inspiration on how to live life to its fullest, I encourage you to check it out. Thank you so much, Eric.
No problem. Thank you.
Well, my friends, that is going to wrap up what has turned out to be quite a lengthy episode of Podcast Answer Man, but that's okay because I want to let you guys know I will not be here next week. That's right, no Podcast Answer Man episode for the final week in August. I will be in the Arlington, Texas area at the Catholic New Media Conference. There's still time if you want to sign up. You can go to CatholicNewMediaConference.com. I am going to be doing the keynote speech on Wednesday, August 29th. So if you want to join me there at the conference, I would love to have you there. Anyway, just a reminder, no podcast next week. Real quickly, I want to just give you an update about my own business technology. This is something I want to kind of incorporate from time to time in the show. And that is that I have been using Mountain Lion on all of my machines, including this main production machine now, for several weeks, and haven't had a single issue to report. No issues, no compatibility problems. That includes another machine that does all my live video stream. Everything seems to be working just fine. So there may still be some, crazy software inconsistencies. If you haven't ever done so, go to roaringapps.com. Again, that's roaringapps, roaringapps.com, and you can check the compatibility of maybe some of the software that you use. Let's see here. Also, want to say thank you to the folks who used my Bluehost affiliate link to sign up for a hosting account at Bluehost. Each time you do that, I do receive a very generous commission. So I want to say thank you to the gentleman behind the website letsreverseobesity.com. And I went there this morning and saw quite an interesting header, and it said in the first post, podcast coming soon. So again, that's at letsreverseobesity.com. Totally awesome. Looking forward to seeing what happens there. And then also, there was somebody who signed up for a certain fantasy football site. However, I'm not going to put a link to it. There's a picture of two naked women in the background of the site. But it is somebody who used my affiliate code to sign up for a Bluehost account, and it very much really is a fantasy football website, but I'm just not going to tell you the URL. But I just want to say thank you for those of you who are using my Bluehost affiliate link. And also, speaking of affiliate links, thank you for each and every one of you who are going through B&H Photo and clicking through my banner or my links on my site at podcastanswerman.com/equipment. Anytime you click on a link with B&H and get to their site, I earn a commission there. And so far, folks have purchased $6,287 in equipment in the last 2 weeks. So thank you guys.